Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is finally over. We don't have to look at any more 53-man projections. You don't have to watch us supposed experts tell you who will or won't make the roster, because I'm going to be honest, a lot of us was probably wrong about some stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, not only do we have every move that was made today for the 53-man roster deadline, but we also have the Dallas Cowboys initial roster to take a look at. And if you can't tell, bro, I'm excited. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. One of my guys, one of the guys that I tabbed as a future gem, a hidden gem, a future star, made the roster. Makes me feel good. Let's get right into it. Be sure to subscribe. More Dallas Cowboys content on the reg. Man, shut your up. All right, let's go ahead and go through all of the players who was released today. Number 75, Hakeem Adeniji, a tackle. Ernest Brown, that was number 51. He was a defensive tackle. Sadiq Charles, number 77, an offensive guard. Jaron Christian, number 79, a tackle. C.J. Goodwin was released by the Dallas Cowboys, number 29. Cornerback, longtime special teamer. That right there is worth mentioning because, yes, they're probably going to bring him back because I'm sure he's a vested veteran, so he can choose to sign wherever the hell he wants. Probably come back on the practice squad or whatever it may be. But this right here is an encouraging sign as it pertains to Cowboys moving with the times, moving on with the times, moving forward, looking ahead to the future, not really trying to hold on to any remnants of the past, bro. C.J. Goodwin is someone I never understood how you could justify having him on your initial 53-man roster when literally all he's doing for your team is playing gunner on special teams. And yes, he does that well. But come on, man. What we talking about, bro? Guys is taking up 53-man roster spots just to play gunner. You can literally play a receiver or a corner or anybody at that position. Wanye, let somebody else do that job, bro. You don't need C.J. Goodwin taking up an entire spot on a 53-man limited roster to play gunner. So that right there, very, very encouraging sign as it pertains to moving towards change in the future, right? Will Grier. This was a little bit of 53-man gymnastics. I'm sure C.J. Goodwin is probably the same thing. Will Grier, this is a very smart cut. This allows you to keep someone else at other positions. Will they bring him back on a practice squad? I really don't know. More than likely. But cutting Will Grier buys you another very valuable spot on that 53-man. And again, he's a veteran, so I'm sure he gets to choose where he goes. Keemon Hall was released. This means Zion Childress beat out Keemon Hall to be the starting nickel cornerback, y'all. Not only does this mean that Zion Childress made the team, but remember, they cut Israel Mukuamu earlier today. On my previous video, we covered that. We talked about it. I'm not going to go into detail about Izzy's cut, but we talked about it on my previous video. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, go back and watch the one I just uploaded like an hour ago. But Zion Childress now has an open runway to being our starting nickel cornerback because they cut the other guy who's competing for it. Keemon Hall is gone. That is very encouraging. Again, I know I keep saying the word encouraging. That's the word of the day. Encouragement. That's the word of the day. But it's very encouraging because it tells me that Brian Schottenheimer is a man of his word. He was allowing guys to seriously compete for roster spots. He was looking at what we were looking at. By we, I mean the people that was actually putting in the work and really peeling back the layers and figuring out what these guys were. They saw the same things we saw, which kind of vindicates what we're seeing as fans and pundits. But it also shows me that Brian Schottenheimer is prioritizing competition. Something he's been preaching. He's prioritizing competition. So shout out to head coach Brian Schottenheimer because Keemon Hall being cut instead of a Zion Childress. And remember, Keemon is the guy that they had tabbed as the starter all offseason. Instead of Zion Childress being cut, that lets me know that they really watched who was competing. They really watched what guys were putting out there on that field day in and day out, and they rewarded guys justly. So very, very smart decision there. Linebacker Darius Harris was cut. Linebacker Buddy Johnson was cut. Israel Mukuamu, we talked about that already. Michael Oyemudia, the cornerback that was just recently signed. Robert Rochelle, another corner who was recently signed, kind of like a camp body, so not a big deal there. And they also waived, and remember, there's a difference between released and waived. Released means a guy can sign with whoever he wants, whenever he wants. So a lot of these guys on this release list, it's very possible they come back on the practice squad. Waived are the guys that actually have to go through the waiver wire process. And remember, that means 31 other teams get a chance to say yay or nay as it pertains to do they want to add them to their practice squad or 53-man roster, whatever it may be. And if they say yay, then the player has no choice. They have to go there. Now, if the Cowboys want to sign them to their 53-man roster from another team's practice squad, you can do that. But they would have to make it through the waiver wires to come back to the Cowboys if you're on this waived list, which consists of Tommy Akingbasote, one of their rookies. I kind of figured that this was going to be his future. He was a 7th-round draft pick, kind of the last pick in the draft for the Cowboys. And honestly, just I don't think really showed enough to warrant a serious spot on the roster, at least not right now. I think he was probably going to come back, end up being a practice squad type of guy if he clears waivers, which honestly he should. Number 55, Justin Barron, I think played very well throughout the offseason, showed a lot throughout the preseason, and I think it's possible that this is a guy that they're looking at bringing back on the practice squad as well if he clears waivers. Jalen Brooks, this is his 3rd season, which means he cannot be released and just sign anywhere he wants. He will have to clear waivers, which he probably will not. This is an experienced receiver that's actually had real NFL experience, so teams will likely find value in that, and I think Jalen Brooks is probably going to be gone for real from the Cowboys. So that one was overdue. Let's be honest, y'all. That one was overdue, y'all. We ain't going to sit here and act overly sad for some of these guys that we've been talking about we wanted going off the team for a long time now. Now, look, I understand people losing their jobs and stuff, but we got to keep it real, bro. We've been talking smack all season like, why we have Jalen Brooks? I'm not going to sit here and act like the world ending over dudes that I myself have said I really don't want on my team anymore. So, Jalen Brooks, best of luck to you. It's nothing personal. I just think that there were other guys that I would rather see more of than you, and that's just what it is, bro. Next up, we have Elijah Clark, a rookie safety, number 38. Another guy, I think he showed a lot. The Cowboys are probably looking at him as another guy that they want to clear waivers. Jalen Cropper, number 16, a wide receiver. Malik Davis, the running back. Rivaldo Fairweather, we talked about him. Princeton Font, Treshawn Holden, Mike Smith, Deuce Vaughn, and Tyrus Wheat, the defensive end out of Mississippi State. Tyrus Wheat was actually waived. I think that's kind of surprising for some people because Tyrus Wheat, I mean, I think he was another one of those guys that the previous coaching staff, they really liked. And now he's another one of those guys that the previous coaching staff really liked. It's out the door. So very interesting there. They also made a trade again for Asim Richards. They traded him to the Saints so they could get a 6th-round pick back from the Saints in 2028. And the reserve injured due for return list is Jonathan Mingo and Peyton Turner. And they put on the reserve PUP list Josh Butler and DeMarvion Overshown. The reserve non-football injury list consists of Savon Rebel. So we still have 2 of our corners on the reserve list. We have DeMarvion Overshown, Jonathan Mingo, and Peyton Turner. Everyone looks to be healthy, and they did not actually put Phil Maffa on the IR, it looks like they're keeping Phil Maffa on the actual 53-man roster. And we're actually going to take a look at the 53-man roster right here. You can see we have 2 quarterbacks, Dak and Joe. We have 5 running backs, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa, and Hunter Lepke. So everyone thought that Miles Sanders was going to be a guy that was out the door. It looks like he stayed. All right, so the Cowboys like Miles Sanders a lot more than some of y'all do. And I think that that's a smart thing to do. You have Miles and Javonte kind of like as the elder statesman version of a Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. Literally, that's what that is. You have the perfect 2 vets to kind of talk the rookies along. Those rookies play similar roles, have similar qualities as the 2 vets that they're backing up. So that's honestly a very well-constructed running back room. It just doesn't have the star power that I know a lot of fans would be more comfortable with. The wide receivers, they actually only carried 5 wide receivers, which is actually very surprising. Jalen Tolbert, George Pickens, Kevontae Turpin, Ryan Flanoy, and CeeDee Lamb. Remember, Jonathan Mingo is going to be number 6 when he does come back after 4 weeks. So they really carried 6 receivers. Tight ends, they have Luke Schoonmaker, Jake Ferguson, and Brevin Spann-Ford. Looks like that's all they need, and it looks like those are probably going to be the guys the Cowboys stick out with throughout the season. I know Luke Schoonmaker was a guy a lot of people were looking at like, hey, maybe we could trade him, but it looked like they like him. Offensive line, they only carried 9 offensive linemen, and that's where some of that swing capability comes into play. You can see that listed here for Brock Hoffman, guard and center, so he gives you a little bit of flexibility. And we also kept TJ Bass as a backup. We kept a Johnny Cornelius, the rookie out of Oregon. He had a very, very strong preseason camp. Nate Thomas, who beat out Asim Richards, which is why he's gone now, and those are your backups. So Nate, Ajani, TJ, and Brock are our backups, and obviously the other 5 guys are going to be your starting 5. Defensive line, we kept Micah Parsons, Dante Fowler, Donovan Ezeraiku, James Houston, another example of Shoddy living up to the old, hey, compete. Absolutely love this. James Houston 100% earned himself a roster spot, and I'm so glad that the Cowboys rewarded him, and duly so. He did his thing, and you honestly couldn't have asked any more of a guy to prove that he earned the roster spot than what James Houston did this offseason, bro. Constant pressures. I think he got a couple of sacks. Like, he was absolutely destructive, and I'm extremely encouragement by the fact that James Houston made this roster. Obviously, Sam Williams is still here. Mozzie Smith, Solomon Thomas, Jay Toye, Osa Digizu, and Perion Winfrey are your defensive tackles, 3s and 1s. And then we have Marshawn Nealon as well. I honestly like our defensive line. I just think the nose tackle position is just missing a credible name there. And I say credible meaning a guy who's shown that he can play the position properly at a standard level for NFL players, right? I think that's just what you're missing right there. Linebackers, we kept 5 linebackers. Damone Clark, Maris Leofow, Shamar James, Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, and they also have the Marvion Overshown on the IR list as well. So 6 linebackers, really. And remember, Matt Eberflus loves his linebackers, so I'm not surprised. And we kept 10 defensive backs. Wanye Thomas, Donovan Wilson, Trevon Diggs, Marquise Bell, Kyer Elam, Kalen Carson, Andrew Booth, Deron Bland, Malik Hooker, and Zion Childress. I would rather Zion Childress be out there playing corner than Andrew Booth. I'm just keeping it a buck. But maybe Andrew Booth will surprise us. I don't know. I'm going to get a guy a chance. But, bruh, very, very concerning that he's still on the roster. Troy Pride must have really been bad if he couldn't beat Andrew Booth out. That's all I'm going to say about that. Then we have Brian Anger, Brandon Aubrey, and Trent Sieg as our specialist. That is the 53-man roster for the Dallas Cowboys. Can't wait to see what the depth chart is going to look like. That's going to be the next big reveal that we take a look at as a community for the Cowboys ahead of that Week 1 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know down in the comments below, what did you think about the cuts? What do you think about the roster? What did you like? What didn't you like? Let me know all that stuff down in the comments below, man. I'm finally going to get a chance to take a breather. Now, bow! Them Cowboys.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still the boy? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Hey! I'm still them boys.